wish you'd understand. I just wish that God had a better plan. I'm so confused. I need a redo. Inside of me that's begging and begging and pleading. I just wanna feel free. I just wanna feel lovely. I'm surrounded by love that's in pain. Can I wipe your tears away? Please don't hurt for me. I hate that it's for me. It's for me.
Hi, welcome to the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast, and thank you to the beautiful Amber K for that awesome introduction into the show. Amber is warrior number 2. Please check out her episode. She is the singer-songwriter that wrote I Hate That It's For Me, and she's an MSer. She's an awesome, awesome warrior. Please check out her episode. My name is Brian. I am the MS Michigan Man 64 podcast. What I do is I talk about my journey. I've had MS for the last 28 years. I talk about how it's been for me, and I talk about how it's been for other people. And then we just try to explain the way we have lived our lives and how we keep on fighting on with this disease. Today, I am talking to an MSer that I met on social media. I met Phoebe a couple weeks ago. She messaged me and she wanted to talk about her journey. She was diagnosed with her MS in 2001. She was actually pre-med at the time, very young. And, she had to put that off and just start figuring out life. And she's been doing that ever since. And she wanted to come on and talk about how she does that. Please welcome to the podcast, Phoebe. How you doing today, Phoebe?
Hey there, Brian. Thank you for having me on the show. And thank you all for being here to listen to me. I hope that I am able to bring some kind of value to you. The way I wish I had it given to me way back at the beginning of my diagnosis. So,
Amen. I know I say the same thing, Phoebe. Back in '97, I was young and I was scared and I didn't have the internet to go to. I didn't have Facebook. Right. It was a lonely experience, and that's kind of why I started this podcast. Was just to try to help explain it because everybody's so different in this journey, and I know
exactly
and how we handle it. And I know that when you got your diagnosis in 2001, you were pre-med. Can you just kind of take us through your journey and how you got to that diagnosis in 2001? What was going on with your life, and how the doctors ended up telling you that you had multiple sclerosis?
Actually, I had symptoms before that, but what took me to the hospital at that time was left-sided hemiataxia. So put me in the middle of the room and I'd make crop circles. At least that's what my husband tried saying when I was in the emergency room. They did an MRI. Nope, they didn't have the MRI in there. They did the CAT scan and they came back in the room and said, you have something in the middle of the brain. You need to go be seen for this. And I went to a follow-up with a neurologist. The neurologist sat down, got family history. I do have family history with MS. My mother and her brother were the two that I had known at that point. And after months of testing and just getting worn out by it, the doctor finally came back and said, look, you have one lesion. Multiple sclerosis is multiple. We cannot give you a diagnosis of MS until you have more than one. Here is a box on Avonex. Take it home, get used to it. We're just going to continue to watch you until you have more than one. But I'm going to put in your notes that you have MS, but we can't really do anything with this until after you have another lesion.
That is crazy, Phoebe. That
Yes.
That doesn't even make. I don't know. That doesn't even make sense to me. Why they give you a box of Avonex? So they're basically telling you, we think you got MS, but we're not going to call it that yet. That doesn't even make sense to me.
Oh yeah, but it was 2001, and it's crazy to say it this far out and how far we've grown since then, that people can get diagnosed now with MS and not even have a lesion. So I did not have the oligoclonal bands at the time when they did my lumbar puncture, but I definitely had the issues when they did the visual evoke test and the nerve response test and all of the other tests. I had things that popped up, but dang it. And I just totally lost what I was going to say. But regardless, there was so many indicators that said that I had MS, not to mention that I also have family members that had full-blown MS.
Right.
But there were 3 medications back then. People didn't really seem to understand much of anything. And it seemed at that time, people were either overdiagnosing it or holding the diagnosis back. I mean, it kind of, there wasn't anything in the middle. It was one side or the other. And I happened to get stuck with the people who said, no, you know,
Right.
you have it, but we're not treating you for it.
Yeah. So let me ask you this, Phoebe. You had family members that had this disease, so you kind of understood this. How did you handle, like, when you were actually told that you had MS and you know the history of it with your family members? How did you handle that mental part of it when you were told that?
I actually, I cried a lot. I was pissed. I took it as a death sentence. My mother basically stopped functioning, and never did anything anymore. I mean, she was an abusive person anyway, but she stopped doing a lot of stuff. And then my uncle, he basically lived wheelchair bound. He never walked after I met him, you know, after he got that, not that I met him, but after he had the MS, he didn't walk anymore. And so he ended up getting other secondary things from it. I don't know if it was his treatment. I mean, like I said, this is so long ago, but
Right.
he ended up having to have parts of his legs amputated. And
Wow.
sometimes they said, yes, this was part of MS. And sometimes they said, no, it wasn't part of MS. So there was just so much not solid information. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
It was wishy-washy. I mean, I think now we still have wishy-washy, but I think that there's so much better understanding today than there was almost 30 years ago, you know?
Yeah, I understand that. So I know that you were pre-med when you went through that diagnosis, and I know since then you got your master's degree, but in 2014. But I mean, from that 13-year period, the mental part of it, I mean, how did you get to that point where you went back to school? I mean, just like that 10-year, 12-year period, you know, what was going on? I mean, how were the DMTs treating you, and what were you figuring out mentally about this disease?
Well, first it took me getting over the initial part. And that probably took me a couple of years. And then we ended up moving from Florida to Kentucky, and I finished my bachelor's degree at that point. It was in biology, but it was just strictly a biology degree. It wasn't like medicine.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so I'm still alive. But immediately as I was graduating with my undergraduate degree, I hit a real crisis mode with MS. And that was that I became blind in both eyes. It wasn't like blind, like I was having issues seeing things. It was the absolute absence of sight. There was no level of black. It just was as black as you could envision.
Right.
And I became completely incapacitated. And I thought at that point that I was going to die. And I was like, well, okay, if I'm going to survive this, then I better figure out a way to live, because you don't go through this and not have some sort of purpose for your life.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to live, we're going to find out how to live. So I fought my way back, and I decided that every day I was going to get up and I was going to live, and I was going to figure out, what can I do today?
Yeah.
And some days it was just sit there and think positive thoughts. Sometimes it was sit there and pray for people. It was definitely, I had a lot of talking with God about, okay, you know, what are my next steps? And it was a lot of time in the dark, and it was really scary. And at the time, I was going to say, at the time, my husband was deployed, and I had 2 elementary age children in the house. So that was really scary.
Yeah, you had a lot on your plate. I couldn't even imagine, you know, just the mental battle that you were going through at that time, being as young as you were. You know, and just trying to get shit figured out, and you don't even have your husband around. I couldn't even imagine that.
Exactly. It was tough. I was going to mention that he was deployed. This was after September 11th, and it was in support of retaliatory type stuff.
Yeah.
And he was slated to actually go overseas. He had not actually left yet. And he had two other members of the military that offered to take his orders to fly over so that he could stay stateside.
That's awesome.
He didn't get to be close to home, but he was close enough that he could make the 3-hour drive one way
Yeah.
to help me out with things
That's
periodically.
that's
So
awesome.
yeah.
That's awesome that the Navy
Yeah.
did that for your husband. I know we talked about that a
Uh,
lot before we recorded and all that. So let's go back to your eyesight, because I know that is a really interesting story in itself, Phoebe. When you lost your eyesight and everything went dark, kind of explain to everybody, how you did end up gaining your eyesight back, because the eyesight has been my biggest problem with my MS, and I think that your journey, getting your vision back is just fascinating to me.
Let me explain a little bit the backstory on it. When I noticed my eyesight was starting to go, I've heard people talk about it being like a shade that's being pulled down over the eyes.
Yep.
Mine was a little bit different than that, in that it was kind of like a blob that was covering, and it didn't just like both eyes kind of went different. It wasn't like one shade that went down both eyes at the same time. It was a blob that was different in both eyes, and that it slowly went away. Then I had to go see a neuro-ophthalmologist. And the neuro-ophthalmologist, after multiple testings, said, okay, what I think this is optic neuritis. And there's not enough studies out there that says that if you take steroids, it will really help this. So I'm not going to prescribe you steroids. I wish he had. It might have helped things, but he didn't.
Yeah.
So he said, basically what we have to do here is it's a waiting game. So you get to go home and wait.
Wow.
We'll find out whether it comes back or not.
Wow.
And that probably was a really, really one of the darkest times for me. And really, truly to know that I was blind was when I was sitting in the examination chair, and I heard all the clinking around, and I was waiting because, you go to the eye doctor and they put that really bright light in your eyes where they're looking the inside, and you're like, my God, they're blinding me. I was looking forward to that light. And it was really quiet in the room, and he'd finally stopped clinking around, and I was like, okay, surely he's going to be putting that light on in my eye. And so I waited and I waited and I waited. I'm like, can I see it? I'm trying to will myself to see the light. And I asked, is the light on yet? And everybody in the room, kind of all dismal in unison, said yes. So they all knew that I was blind because that light is bright, and there was no semblance of it whatsoever. So that was how that started.
Mm-hmm.
As far as where I went to from there, I didn't really know what to do. I mean, there wasn't going to be medicine to fix it because he said, we're just going to hurry up and wait.
Yeah.
That's where I drew on my faith. Prayer all the time. I had my husband taking me to church. They had a special group of people that did healing prayer service once a week, where they would lay hands on you and they would pray. And they talked to me about taking communion every day. I started taking communion every day. Then I started seeing a chiropractor, and he started doing some adjustments, and an acupuncturist. And before I know it, I started getting a slight bit of vision in the extreme, like a pin strip around the outside edge of my vision.
Yeah.
And I was like, wait a minute, I think I could see something. And then it started coming back, like if you took a sheet of paper and you put a bunch of bullet holes in it, one at a time.
Yeah.
That's how my vision came back, was literally one little sporadic spot at a time.
Yeah. Wow.
And it was all grayscale. So by the time it came all the way back, I could see things in grayscale. Like if I looked at my hand, I couldn't see like the creases in the bottom of my hand, but I could see the shape of a hand, and it was all grayscale. And then when I would look at light bulbs, they would disappear. So I don't remember whether that's the rods or the cones, but that part was still very much fried. So I couldn't look at lights. They just disappeared. And then slowly from that, it continued to come back. I do have permanent optic nerve damage now.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I can see what everybody else does.
Right. Yeah, I know the story that you told me, because I mean, like I said, my eyes have been my biggest fear of with my MS.
Yeah.
I have the optic neuritis. Every time I have an episode, it's usually vision related. And,
Hmm.
and just to hear how you got your sight back, and I just think it's an amazing story that, you just never know with this disease. I know people that were in wheelchairs, they're up and out walking now. I've recorded with many of them, and you just never know with this disease, and I know that you can't give up, and
No, I want to add, Brian, that I really think that what you believe has a huge role in this. I
yeah,
can't say that if you're in a wheelchair and you believe that you will never be in a wheelchair again, that that will happen, but
yeah,
I believe that it plays a big role in your ability to do more than you are. Does that make sense?
it does
If
make
you're
sense. Yeah,
Yeah, and I do believe a lot. And when I'm in a bad place, I'm like, no, I'm not accepting the fact that this is where I'm at, and I fight back,
yeah. I know,
you know.
and just to go, like I said earlier, that you got your master's degree and you were pre-med, and you're fighting
Hmm.
this fight. You lose your vision, and then fast forward to 2014, you decide to go back and go back to school and get your master's after you get your vision back. And I just think that's just,
Yes.
yeah,
It was all about getting my life back. I had gone through all of this. Then I tested, as soon as I got my eyesight back, that's when I tested positive for the BRCA breast cancer gene, and I had scheduled to go in for prophylactic surgery. And when they went in, they actually found cancer. They removed the cancer. So I did both of those at the same time. I was like, you know what? Okay, that's it. I don't know what this game is, but I want to have a life before this is all done. So
yeah.
what am I going to do next? And so I started playing with sea turtles and signed up with UCF out in Orlando. I applied to UCF for a PhD program in sea turtle conservation, and I also signed up for seminary.
That is just so
And
awesome. That is so awesome.
I got acceptance letters in the mail from both places on the same day, and I had to make a decision.
That is
And I
just,
did end up going to graduate school for the seminary.
man, that is just so awesome, and that's just like the never quit attitude, and
Hmm.
and like you said, I mean, it doesn't mean that you're going to get out of a wheelchair, but you just got to figure it out. You got to figure out how you can still live a great life and do the best with what you still have, and
Use
that's,
what you've got.
yeah, it is what you
Use what
got.
you've got.
And I know, and you're an accomplished author. I mean, you went on to write books. You're an award-winning writer, and and
Yes,
and and you also got into ballroom dancing. And I want to talk
I
about
did.
all that stuff and how those are your tools and how you fight this disease.
Exactly. Um, well, let me start by saying after I finished my graduate degree, my first step was to sit down and look at what my life path had been and where I want, what I learned and where I want to go to from there. And that's when I wrote my book, The Silver Lining: Encounters with Angels. And that one basically is my memoir. It talks about my childhood. It talks about the initial stages of learning about MS, uh, what took place, what I did to manage through it, and what my plans were, how I thought forward all the time. It was always a forward thought.
Yeah.
It's not, hey, how do I get to this point and stop? It's how do I get to this point and then where do I go to from there?
Right.
I don't ever want to have a final point because I feel like that's going to be the end for me.
I hear
So
you.
as long as I have something to move forward with, that's my plan forward. And then once I finished that book, I didn't have anything else to do. I mean, I got my graduate degree, I finished the book, I got it published. It's award winning. My husband said, "Look, we need to do something else. You're ready to improve your physical aspect now that you've got most of this back. Let's try ballroom dancing." And so we went to go do it as a social thing.
Mm-hmm.
But within 3 months of dancing, I realized that 80% of the symptoms that I was still feeling were either not there or significantly reduced.
Wow.
And it didn't become a a real aha moment until COVID happened. And when COVID happened and we had to stop dancing, I noticed how quickly things reversed backwards.
Really? Wow.
And so, yeah, with me having a biology background, I am a researcher, and I started researching. I said, surely there's got to be peer-reviewed research out there on benefits of dance for people with MS, because I can tell you with clear as day that I had benefits. And I found endless, just a plethora of research on the benefits of dance for people with MS.
Yeah.
It's not just the physical, it's the emotional, it's the social, it's the full thing that it helps.
I love
And yeah, absolutely. I felt like I had a life for the first time since my diagnosis.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I have been going to school and doing all these other things. I just felt like I was going through the motions of just surviving.
Yeah.
When I started dancing, that's when I really started feeling like I was living.
Yeah.
I don't know if that makes a difference or if you see that, but that's how that happened for me. And it's like my air. So I love it. And I've shared that with many.
And then, and I tell people all the time, I've been doing this 28 years and everybody has their own individual journey. But I learned really quick that exercise was very important for my MS.
Yes.
And, I kind of, I got done playing football at Michigan and, I was in good shape. And when my doctor told me not to change anything with what I was doing, he's like, he said to me, Brian, you're in good shape. You take good care of yourself. Just keep doing what you're doing and stay as mobile as you can. And I took that to heart. And I'm like, you know what? All right, I'm going to go into a weight room. I'm not going to lift like I did when I played, but I'm still going to stay in shape. And I'm going to keep my legs moving because I wanted to stay standing as long as I could. So I was on an elliptical.
Right.
If my MS got worse, throughout my 28 years, I figured out a way to still keep my mobility because I'm like, I got to figure this out. And I went to a bike,
Exactly.
a recumbent bike, when I couldn't stand long enough, I still wanted to keep those legs moving, because it's just important. I think movement, however you can do it, ballroom dancing, or, going to a gym or getting on an elliptical or just walking, just going for a walk every day. But you got to,
Exactly.
even if you're tired and it hurts a little bit, you got to push, it's attitude. You got to have an attitude sometimes.
I was going to say, that's what I do for my pain management, actually, is walking. People need to understand that we have everything inside of ourselves to help ourselves. And if we start walking, and you walk for a certain amount of time, your body will start to release those healing endorphins.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, certain pain medications, if you're taking certain pain medications, it won't allow that to happen. But if you're not on regular pain medications, you can actually create your own healing endorphins. And so every time I have surgery, every time I have excessive levels of pain with MS, or I find that I'm walking kind of with a little bit of a gimp, I will just go out and start walking. Yeah. And after a certain amount of time, is like a well-greased cog where suddenly my walking gets more smooth.
Yeah.
And I start to feel better and I breathe better and I put a smile on my face and I'm happier. So walking is one of the biggest things. And my neurologist is very well aware of that. And consequently, most of us with MS see our neurologist every 6 months, right?
Right.
Last year, actually, now we're into 2026. In 2024, in July, I saw my neurologist. And for the first time since 2001, I was told that I could wait 12 months to come in for a visit.
Awesome. And isn't that
He saw me July this year. And he was getting ready to schedule me for a 6 month. And he's like, wait a minute. It's been 12 months since I saw you last, and your strength is continuing to get better and everything else is just as good. And your MRIs are status quo. And okay, we'll do it for another 12 months. So this July of this year will be the second time that I've been for my exams 12 months instead of 6 months. And he is starting to say that it is absolutely the dance. And he tells me that I should keep doing it. He said, there's something about dancing and neuroplasticity. He said, but the thing to understand about neuroplasticity is that it takes time.
Yeah.
And it does.
And here's a twist to your story too. You started out and you were on Rebiff and you were on your DMTs, and when you started the ballroom dancing, you actually quit your DMTs, and I think that's just an added badass part of the story is you're doing it the way that most of us do. I'm on DMTs. I've been on pretty much most of them. Tasabri, Gilenia. And my last one was Mavenclad, but you actually came to the decision in 2015 when you started ballroom dancing to say, you know what, I'm done putting these DMTs in. I'm going to do it my way, and this is where you're at now. And it's just that's an amazing part of that story.
Right. Yeah, it was December 2015. Actually, I had stopped taking the Rebiff earlier than that because I'd been taking the injections for so long that my subcutaneous tissue, the fat had turned very rubber-like.
Yeah.
And so they determined that my body was no longer absorbing the medications anyway. And my neurologist at the time wanted me to be on something. And so we actually tried 3 different pill medications at that point.
Mm-hmm.
And all 3 of them caused me medical issues that took me to the hospital. And I said, that's it. I'm not going to take anymore. I'm not ready to give up my life. I don't feel like my symptoms are bad enough to warrant me needing medication at this point.
Yeah.
So I stopped taking the medicine December 15th of 2015. And then by May of 2016 is when I started ballroom dancing. So I kind of had it was a very shaky 5 months because I had 4.5 months. It was really shaky coming off of the medicine. And every time I felt something, I thought maybe I was going to have a relapse or be in trouble. And I've heard all those horror stories about people that come off of meds and have a really bad situation. And so that always played in my head. But then I was like, no, don't believe that. You need to look at this for truth. How are you really feeling and what is really going on? And then I would take a deep breath, relax myself, take a walk, read a book, whatever. And that calmed me down. And then the dance happened. And once I started dancing, I didn't even think about it anymore.
Yeah. And you're actually doing that competitively now, Phoebe, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And you're winning competitions. I just think that's just badass,
Thank you.
You made that. And I always tell everybody that it's your journey, whether or not you're going to be on a DMT or not, it's what's going to make you the best you. And for you to sit there and say, you know what, I want to be the best me. I'm going to stop these DMTs. I'm going to do it my way. I think that's awesome because I don't think there's one right way to attack this disease. You got to figure it out.
No.
And you got to customize it. It's your journey. Don't let anybody talk.
Exactly.
Don't let anybody talk you into doing it this way. This is the best way to do it. You know what? Bullshit, man. Figure it out on your own and make it your way.
Right. I was going to say, yeah, and there is a time and place for medicine. I would never tell somebody don't take medicine if they felt like that was going to work for them.
Absolutely.
And I think you're absolutely right. It is very individual. And I can't say that I won't go back on medicine in the future. This is just where I am for right now. Right. And I think it's working great.
Yep.
And I am completely supportive of anybody in whatever decision that they make for their treatment plan. Mm-hmm. I'm just here to share what has worked for me because I wish back in 2001, I had somebody that I could talk to that said, look, I have MS, but I successfully live. Right. I have a productive and joyful life, and this is how I do it. That's what I want to be for the people now.
I'll tell you a good story that I recorded with a lady. Her name's Maria. She's on episode 3 of my original podcast that I did before Hail Media. She was the first lady that I recorded with, and she was her son played football with my son back in high school. And she came up to me after practice one day and said, hey, coach, I heard you have MS. And I said, yeah, I do. She goes, I just got diagnosed with it. I said, oh, I'm sorry. She said, well, can I ask you some questions? I said, yeah, absolutely. So we developed this friendship. And then fast forward 4 years later, her son graduates, my son graduates, and her son goes to med school. And he wants to be a neurologist because his mom got diagnosed with MS. And so now today, if you talk to Maria today, she's got primary progressive. She's never taken a DMT. and she's kicking the shit
Wow.
out of her MS. And
Wow.
I said to Maria, I'm like, Maria, your son's a neurologist. He's in residency for neurology now. What does he think about you not being on a DMT? And he told his mom, Mom, you know what? You're doing it your way. However you want to live your life is your choice, and I support it. And
Mm,
I'm like, thank God, thank God your son
I
did
love
that.
that.
She's got a son that's going to be a neuro, and he's like, hey, you got to do it your way. And she's kicking the shit out of it her way without a DMT ever. And I love that.
I really think that that has some real substance to what you're saying. If you believe in what you're doing, I think that says everything right there. Your body is going to believe it.
Hmm.
Your body is going to follow what is in your brain. So if your brain believes that it's working, your body's going to follow suit.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't say that's true, like say you're in a wheelchair and you're like, your brain is like, I don't want to be in this wheelchair, that you're going to get out. But I think depending on the circumstance, you believe a positive thing like that, something positive is going to come out of it.
Yeah.
And I think that that's great. I think that we should all, with MS and any other autoimmune for this or I think that if we believe in it, it's where our success is going to come from.
Yeah, and there's a lot of change in that journey too. I mean, you start out and you think you got it figured out and you're rolling along, and then MS, does whatever it's going to do to you because you can't control it. And it might take
Hiccup.
it might take something away from you, but you still got to figure out how to do whatever you love. And it might be a different way, I mean, you might not be able to
Hmm.
walk anymore, but you still got to figure out a passion and go after it. And
Exactly.
whether it's writing or art or craft work or, ballroom dancing, you just got to figure something out to occupy your mind, and keep fighting on, every day with this disease. You got to figure it out. It's an individual process, but everybody can do it. You just got to put your mind to it, have an attitude, and figure out what's going to make me happy. I found out that podcasting, I love doing this now. I wasn't even thinking about this 5 years ago, but I'm doing it
Right.
now. It's just like it's always a like revolving door with MS. It closes one door, you got to find one and open it up and go through it and figure it out.
Exactly. Yeah. I think you're right. The fact that it is very individual to each of us. But I also believe at the same time that while each of us has our own MS journey, I believe that each of us coming together in the same pool, the same bowl, whatever you want to say, I think that coming together and doing it together makes it better.
Hmm.
I think that each of us helping each other with our walk forward makes it better.
Yeah.
So that's why, I with the ballroom dancing thing, I started a nonprofit called DAMS 411. It stands for Dance a Myelin, like the myelin sheath.
Yeah.
Dance a Myelin my shoes. And since I started that is to help raise awareness, explain the benefits of dance for people with the autoimmune disorder, specifically MS. I now also have added onto it something called MS Rising, and it's something that I'm going to do on the global platform
Hmm.
this year, but it is specifically for bringing people with MS who live with it at different levels. I have somebody with primary progressives, several with secondary progressive, and some with relapsing remitting. And we are all choosing to live life and do things our way.
Yeah.
But we want to be able to reach our hand out to other people, whether you're new to MS or you've been in the community for a while. We want to be able to extend our hand and say, look, this is how we are doing it successfully.
Yeah.
And we are here to help you forward.
Yeah. I love that.
And so, yeah,
I love that. I know that you have one of a guy that I recorded with, Adam, is going to be on your panel, right? I think for
exactly. Yeah.
May. And I wanted to, talk a little bit more about that because I just recorded with Adam not long ago, and I mean the guy's he's awesome. I mean, primary progressive, he's kicking the shit out of it. He was in a wheelchair.
He's a rock.
He was in a wheelchair. He's out of his wheelchair. He uses a sleeve on his legs now. I mean, he's got car controls on his car so he can still drive. I mean, he's figuring it out. He's not even that long diagnosed. He's about 5-6 years diagnosed, and he's just kicking the shit out of his MS his way.
He is, and he's getting more and more active. He's riding bikes. He just is absolutely amazing. I can't wait for him to be on there. So my MS Rising event is going to be a panel event. All of the panel members are going to be live in the same room, but it's going to be a virtual event. So people from around the world can come and attend it, and you'll be able to ask questions to the panel members directly. This is something that I wish I had in 2001 when I was diagnosed.
Me too.
To be able to hear stories of people with MS and to hear how bad it was for them at their lowest point, and yet they were able to walk past that, through that, whatever, and turn things around to where they were productively living their lives, and then be able to share that with others. Not only share it, but to be able to connect with and be able to have relationships beyond the meeting,
Yeah.
So you come to the meeting and you sit and you talk to, ask questions of the people that are there, and you want to be able to keep contact with them. We have avenues for people to continue relationships so that the people on the panel can build partnerships with the people who come to the event virtually.
I love that, Phoebe. I know when you were telling me about that a couple of weeks ago, I was just like, man, that is just badass. I hope this thing picks up and gets like huge. And I hope that you can join us next year since this year's already packed out. That'd be awesome. I would love to be a part of that. If it can happen, I will make it happen. I just love everything that you're about. I'm going to put all of Phoebe's information in the podcast description. I just think she's an awesome lady.
Thank you.
I'm amazed by the way that you attack this disease. The fact that you lost your eyesight. I mean, a lot of people. I know people that have lost their ability to talk and hear and see. And I know what this disease can do. And it's a mental health. This is all about the mental health and the mind. I mean, the physical part of this disease sucks. I say it all the time. There's nothing good about the physical part, but the hardest part for me has always been the mental. And you just got to figure that tool out. Whatever it is. For me, it used to be my job was my tool. That was my identity. And most people use that as their identity. And when you have that chronic disease and you lose that identity, that's where you got to figure it out. What's my interest? What can I do? What can I get into to keep me occupied? Because that's the hardest part of the journey.
That was med school for me. And it took me a long time. I didn't even get rid of my pre-med books until almost 2 decades after I had to turn down my acceptance, because every time I thought about it, it crushed me.
Yeah.
But I did. I still have a couple of them because I still love biology and I go back and look. But I was going to ask you, how much more empowered do you feel when you connect with people with MS who are doing it, whether we're having a bad day or not? That's where my biggest thing is. I find so much empowerment within our community.
This is my fuel now, because I'm so dormant. I stare at 4 walls all day long, especially in the wintertime. At least in the summer, I can get outside. I can go up to the lake and go fish it. I can occupy my mind that way. But the tools that I have, like just going on TikTok and getting in lives and talking to people that are brand new in this journey and they're scared and they're crying, and just to let them know, you're going to be okay. I mean, the world looks like it's crashing in on you right now, but I guarantee you're going to figure it out. You're going to be okay. It's things might change. You might obviously for most people the money changes immediately because you lose your ability to work, and I think that's the biggest anxiety attack that everybody has is how the hell am I going to pay rent or my mortgage or this or that. because the financial burden of having a chronic disease, it's from day one. Your first MRI is, thousands of dollars, and you're paying your deductible, and you're behind right off the rip. And, and that's the part a lot of people just don't understand. That's part of the mental brain fuck that we're going through from the date of the diagnosis.
Exactly.
And, you just got to figure it out, and you're going to figure it out. Everything will slow down for you. But you just, you got to keep on looking for answers from people. Like, how did you do it? How did you do this? How did you do that?
Yes.
And, take bits and pieces.
How'd you make it happen? Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. I got to tell you, but beyond that, that's the first big stress, but there's also the other big stress of some of the symptoms. And I tell you that one of the biggest ones that used to crush me all the time was when I went to the bathroom on myself. And I finally got to the place where I'm like, you know what? Only the cool kids pee themselves. We're finally making jokes about it. I mean, there's so many things that when it used to happen to me, I used to just fall to the floor and cry. I was humiliated. I was embarrassed. I'm like, I'm an adult. I shouldn't be wearing, I'm an adult in my 20s. I shouldn't be wearing diapers. What is up with this?
Right.
So there's a lot to the disease that just really sucks. But when we come together, we all know that we're all dealing with the same thing. Exactly. So there's no place to ridicule or make fun of. We just come together with that understanding heart and just love the heck out of each other and help each other forward. I love our community. I think it's an important part of the journey is just to connect with people that understand you, because a lot of our families, like my family, I'm the only one in my family that has MS. So nobody in my family understands it really. They understand that I have it and they understand what it's done to me, but they don't get it because they don't got it. And I think connecting with people that have this disease is so valuable because they understand what you're going through, and that's a key part to this is just listening. Exactly.
Letting people hear you that understand what you're talking about, whether it's the pain or the neuropathy or the loss of using a leg or a hand or your voice. We get it. We understand this disease. It might not have taken my voice, but to know that it does affect people's voice, I understand that. I understand that this disease can take anything. There's anything that's anything that's connected.
It's relentless, isn't it?
Anything that's connected to a nerve is up for grabs.
Right.
Because that's what it's doing. It's fucking our nerves up.
Mm-hmm. So we definitely got to take our time to put it in its place. And I think that that's what I stand for. That's what my nonprofit stands for. That's what MS Rising is about, is for us to stand up and reclaim ourselves from this disease. We still got to live with it, but it doesn't have to win all the time,
Absolutely.
And we do need each other to be able to roll forward.
I say all the time when I played football in Michigan, you weren't going to win every battle on the field. When you go every play, you wanted to win every play, but if you won 7 out of 10 plays, you were going to win the game. You're not going to win every battle, but you got to win more than you lose. And
Exactly.
You might take a step back, but you got to go get up the next day and try to take 2 steps forward to make up for that step back that you took. And that's kind of the way the path that I took with my MS. I'm like, I've had bad days, but I get up in the morning and I'm like, all right, man, let's go. Game on, and you just keep on pushing and just keep on pushing.
Mm-hmm. So what about the days where you wake up, Brian, and your body says, yeah, no, not today?
I take a break. I've come to learn, there's certain things that, like if I'm in the summertime, I'm planning on going fishing on Friday and I wake up on Friday morning and I'm just like, you know what? I don't think it's a good idea today. I'm just like, you know what? It's not today. It's not going to happen, but tomorrow, maybe it'll happen. Right. It's just.
So what kind of things do you put in the place of that if you don't go?
I like nature. So, just because I'm not out on the boat doesn't mean I can't be by the water. So I'll just go down by the water and sit down by the water and enjoy it. I just find other tools,
I love that.
Or listen to music or just talk to people, people up around me. I'll just sit there and just shoot the shit with them. I just try to find things to occupy my mind, because that's always been my worst enemy, is my own self, my own head.
Exactly. Yeah. I was asking you that because for me, it's dance, right? Dance and walk. Walking always helps everything. But there are times where I will get ready to go to the dance studio and say, oh no, this is just not happening today. You just get that feeling.
Yeah.
I'm not going to try to explain it. We all know what it is. I just get this feeling. It's like, you know what? We're going to just bow out on it today. And that's very sad. But then I do other things in the place of it, whether it's I sit and listen to music, because
Hmm.
it's not specifically the dance by itself. The research shows that it's the dance plus the music, because that music triggers a part in your brain that's a positive thing that initiates those positive endorphins. So in the place of dancing, maybe I'll just put on some music and sit on the couch and maybe tap my foot or my fingers, or just sit and soak in the music. So that's my alternative to not actually going to the dance studio. But
Yeah.
I was curious, for a fisherman, what your backup plan is, because we all got to have a backup plan, right?
You do. You got to have a bag of tools. If this one isn't working today, I got something else that I can try. And, you know, y-
Exactly.
and that's an evolution. Some things you try and they work for a while, and then you got to throw them away because they don't work anymore, and you go to a different tool. And I've been doing that for 28 years.
I love that you said that, because the other book that I have that's a award-winning book is one that I spent a lot of time working on. It is a 6-month pain management program, and it's called Relief, an individualized mindful pain management program. And I have several people, including medical people, that have written reviews inside, and they say that it is so much better than for just pain management. It could be for life management and whatnot. But it's all the tools that I used for getting me through the darkest year with MS, being blind and completely incapacitated. And it was all about the mindset and reframing the mindset. And I do believe I mentioned in there, if not once, several times, that you build your toolbox and you put a bunch of stuff in the toolbox, and it may work really well, but you may come up to a day where that tool doesn't serve you anymore, and it's just sitting there. So you may as well just chuck it to the side. But make sure that when you chuck one to the side, you find something new to take its place, because you want to keep your toolbox full.
Yep.
But as we evolve and adapt, we need to find new tools that's going to follow with us. And I've had several people that have gone through my pain management program, and they said it's life-changing. There are things that they didn't even think about.
I love
And
it.
it's simple, but profound all at the same time.
Yeah, I love it. I love it, Phoebe. Phoebe, I love absolutely talking to you. I can talk to you all day long, and I will definitely have you on again, because I know that we just met a couple weeks ago, but I got a feeling that we're going to be talking to each other a lot in the future.
Yes.
Is
Yes.
is there anything that you would want to tell anybody that is listening to you? Just, how we got to figure it out, and we have to come up with tools. And, if they're scared, what would your message be to them to just keep on fighting with this disease every day?
My biggest thing, first and foremost, is find your community. And that's what MS Rising is about. Is it's difficult to find it sometimes. So start with the people you know who have it. And if you don't know anybody with it, talk to your neurologist and ask them if they will refer you to one of their other patients, because there are patients who are willing to share their phone number with you. But I don't know if anybody's ever said that to you before, but if you want a referral from another patient with MS, talk to your neurologist, because they will have a list of phone numbers, or should have a list of phone numbers, and start connecting with people with MS, because we understand what each other is going through.
I agree with that 100%, Phoebe. I mean, just finding somebody to connect with is just an important part of this journey. Because, like,
Hmm.
you're scared when I don't care how old you are.
Yes,
You can be 18 or you can be 50. When you get that diagnosis, you're scared, and I think it's such an awesome tool. Just social media, whether it's Facebook or TikTok.
exactly.
I love TikTok because you can go on lives and you can see people face to face and you can talk to them. I just met so many awesome, incredible warriors from all over the world because this disease doesn't discriminate. It doesn't matter if you're white,
Mm-mm.
black, Hispanic, you're from the US, you're from France, you're from UK, it doesn't matter. I mean, this disease
Right.
affects everybody all over the world. And I just think that everybody we just all need to come together and just explain what this disease is all about. To help
Hmm.
people that have it and to help people that don't have it understand it, because those are the people I think that are the most frustrating to me is the people that don't have it. And because of some of the comments that we get, that
Yes.
just don't make sense to me. But I just love everything that you're about, and I will definitely have you on again. And
Thank you.
I will put all the information to connect with Phoebe in the description. And I just really thank you for joining me today, Phoebe.
Well, and I thank you very much for having me. And I do appreciate everything you're doing too. I think that it really helps our community, and we should absolutely join hands together and surround all of those that are new and be accepting of everybody in our community. We just need each other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. All right, Phoebe, thank you very much for joining me. And if you want to follow her, I'll put everything about Phoebe in the description. If you want to follow me on TikTok, you can find me MS Michigan Man 64. You can find me on Instagram, MS Michigan Man 64. And I am on Facebook, Brian Wallace out of Brunswick, Ohio. Hit the subscribe button and share it out. We all want to be understood. The best way to be understood is to listen to us talk. Until the next episode,
Exactly.
this is the MS Michigan Man 64. I am out.